Good morning, Gail. How are you? How was your Christmas? Just making sure that things are operating over on the laptop. If you can hear me, can you let me know, Gail? There's not too many people on, so I just want to make sure you're listening while you work. Okay, maybe you can't tell me if you can hear me. Hi, Vesta. Good morning. How are you? How was your Christmas? Okay, good morning, good morning. I'm going to bring my laptop closer to me so I can read who's jumping on. These eyes are not as good as they used to be. Hi, Deborah. And hi, Carol. Pam. Marilyn. Who else have I missed here? I think I'm getting caught up. Hi, Sarah. Sarah, it's so good to have you here. Oh my goodness. I think this might have been the best time to do this and not cancel the live the day after Christmas, because a lot of you may actually have the day off and it's your first chance to hang out with us. So that is great. Hi, Judy and Janice. Betty, I hope you're feeling better today. Soon you'll be back to crafting. Just do what the doctor says. And Barb, Krista, Judy you got the whole Wisconsin gang with you? Huh? You got Robin and Doris and Kathy. Okay, so hey, Shirley. Shirley's watching from Canada. So thank you everyone for spending some time with me this morning. I know the holidays are really busy, but I hope you all had a really, really good Christmas, and you're ready to bring in the new year with maybe a different hobby or a hobby that you can add to your hobbies. So I don't know how many of you have done paper beads before. This has been around a long time. I remember, so I started doing craft shows probably 2018. And there was a lady who came through and stopped at my table and stuff. And she told me, she said, we made these when I was a very little girl. And this, she was up there in years. And she said that it was a way that her mom would get them to sit still and act, and just behave, for a better lack of words, and taught them how to do it. So it's been around for a long time, and it's one of those crafts that it comes and goes with popularity. And when I discovered them, what I was doing was I was looking for another thing that I could do with paper with my granddaughters. At that time, they were of an age where they liked to do scrapbooking, but they were only like 5 and 8. So they liked to play with paper. They liked to play with stickers. We went through the whole origami route, making dresses and things like that. And I was looking for something else that we could do. And that's just got on YouTube and somehow found paper beads. So I am self-taught, but through YouTube. So the first person I found, and I stuck with her for a long time. She's just adorable. Her name is Janice May, and she is from California. And so I just started following her YouTube videos. And I mean, she was going way back. She's been doing it for decades. And her family in the Philippines actually helps her along. I mean, she got into paper beads so much that Avon, she would get all these catalogs, and down in the Philippines where she's from, they actually had a press that could cut these strips of paper in stacks. And part of her business was selling pre-cut strips to make paper beads. And she even, here in the last, I'm going to say 2 or 3 years ago, she actually made it on QVC with paper beads. I mean, that was just like a phenomenal feat. So Janice May really got me started. And then I started watching some other people, started, making friends online, joined some Facebook groups. And I started making the beads and then needed to do something with them. So I started doing craft shows. I just started like teaching myself how to make jewelry. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the bead maker, and then the jewelry makers could buy my beads and they could do it. And then the offer came up from different art places around Toledo. It's like, oh my goodness, could you teach this in a class? So I had 3 venues that I was teaching classes. And then the pandemic hit, and there were no classes, no in-person classes. And at that time, I couldn't even fathom doing something online. So I declined when they said, we can continue the classes. Is it something that you can do remote? And I was scared to death. There was no way I was going to do it. So I just kind of, it took a couple of years for like in-person classes to really fully resume. And by that time, I took my love of quilting and started making quilt cards. So paper beads they were on the back burner. And every now and then a friend will say to me, I'm going to have a few girls over. Would you come to the house and teach us how to do it? And I'm like, sure. But it's basically, it's on the back burner right now. But I can't resist teaching you if you're asking me to show you how to do it. So I thought this would be a great time. I didn't give you a prep sheet because I just want you to sit and watch. And if it's something that it looks like you would find fun to do or you want to try, towards the end of the video, I am going to sell all the tools that my dad had made for me. And I'll share with you his story a little later as we're moving along. But just to give you a little glimpse, my dad saw the beading tool that I was using, and I purchased it from a lady, I think like in New York State or something. And my dad was a retired machinist, and he's looking it over, and it's a very simple tool, but he's like, I could make these. And I'm like, really, Dad? Because if you could make them, I could offer them in my classes, and they get to keep it. It'll be part of, whatever the fee for the class is. So he started making my tools, and he was making them faster than I could have classes. And I was getting boxes all the time. I was getting them in the mail. If I went down to visit him, he was like, here, I got another box of tools. And there's no way I could tell him or ask him to slow down or stop, because at 80 years old, this gave him a purpose. He was keeping his mind busy. He was keeping his hands busy. And being a machinist, I mean, he was like totally absorbed into it. So I just let him go. And I would go down to visit my sister, who he lived with, and I would help him. I mean, my dad was buying dowel rods and had a miter saw. And I was out on the back porch doing this miter saw. And I'm like, Dad, you do this. He was making hundreds of tools. And 80 years old, he was hand cranking, you know, the handles out. And then he went and he bought a drill press, and so he could set the pins in that we were using. He was making trips to Fastenal all the time to get more pins. And it was just a really special time that I had with my dad. So I've got all these tools. I would love for them to be in hands of people who want to make paper beads. Now, mind you, you can get on Etsy. There are people who are making paper bead rollers, and they can get really fancy. And I want you to get whatever tool makes you happy. But if you want a little piece of my dad and I's story, I'm going to share with you. I'm going to have a Google form, and it's a small fee and small shipping fee. But if something like that you want to get for yourself, then you'll have a way, and then I can invoice you and ship them on out to you. So I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to get started. I do have a PDF that I am working on. In fact, it'll be ready this afternoon. It's kind of like a book. I mean, I just kept getting, because I'm like trying to give you a lot of information. We're going to cover the basics today. What you need to know is how to cut the paper, how to roll the bead, what you do with them after that, because this is more than a 1 or 2 hour class. We're not going to be on here 2 hours. I'm going to give you the basics. I can always come back on and we can step it up, or maybe I can figure out how to do some classes just for that. But I'm going to give you the basics. The PDF's going to maybe go into a little bit more detail, but you got to know how to roll the paper. You got to know how to cut it. And then we go from there, because this can get really involved. There are artists out there who make masterpieces, jewelry and stuff with the beads that they make themselves. So I'm going to flip the camera around. While I'm doing that, say good morning to each other, and we will get started. I just got to find my little widgets here. So I'm flipping the camera around. And I don't want to make anybody dizzy while I bring this up. We're going to go over the toolkit, what I call a toolkit. It's like, what are the things that you're going to need to help get you started. The thing I love about paper beads is this. You do not have to spend a fortune to get started. This what really struck my interest with paper beading is I could actually go around the house and start finding the things that I needed. I didn't have to go out and buy an expensive sewing machine. I didn't have to, drop a lot of money to do this. I learned how to roll the paper around a toothpick. This is before I even knew that that there was somebody out there who had figured that they could make a tool to make their life easier with paper beads. And that's what this lady and her husband did. But I was rolling the paper around this toothpick because the toothpick was giving me the hole that I needed for the bead. And after about 1,000 beads, my fingers were cramping, and there just had to be a better way. So that's when a tool comes in really handy. And I'm telling you, you can find some really fancy ones. There are people who have made this craft their business, and they actually manufacture tools. I guess back a few years ago, you could even find tools at Michael's and stuff, and I didn't know that at the time when I bought mine. But they're really simple to make. You just, it's whatever you want to spend on the tool. So, hey Kathy. Hey Jean, you made it. Yay. Let's see, Marilyn. Barbara's here. Okay, great. We got some more people jumping on. Okay, so I think I want to try to zoom in just a little bit more. And, oh, sorry, I'm trying to get my chair. So I have one of those plastic things that like you would have in an office so that your chair slides around real easy. Well, it's worn a hole in the middle of it, and one of the wheels keeps getting stuck. So, I mean, I'm like trying to slide up to the table here, and I'm getting stuck in a hole, and so that's the noise that you hear. Josephine, hi Lynn. Great. So, where do I want to start? Let me show you some finished beads. Now, I have many a container that has beads in them. And this container just happens to be sorted by color. And my computer's a little behind. Yes, Sarah, it's very similar to quilling. Quilling, I think you use strips of paper that are only a 1/4 inch wide, but you can definitely make beads from the quilling tool and make a bead that's a 1/4 of an inch. So yes, it is like quilling. So there's all different kinds of shapes that you can make. I'm gonna teach you the basics. 3 basic shapes when you cut your paper will actually give you about 6 different beads. So let's just get started with that. Some of these beads that are in my box actually take this here is like a layering method. So this would be kind of like part 2 of paper beading. Learning how to stack the papers so that you can get a round bead. Those kind of things really come after you've learned if this is something that you want to do. But you need to get the basics down. So this is what I call a tube bead. It's just a cylinder, and you'll notice that it's just a straight cut. The ends are straight. There's no tapering. There's no bicone. This can be cut. This is, I think, maybe an inch. Yeah, that's an inch wide. And so you could cut your paper a 1/2 inch wide and get just a little shorter tube there. But that's what I call a tube bead. That's a shape that we're going to do today. And then we have, where's a bicone? A bicone is it's a bead that has 2 ends that come to a point. Here's a bicone. That's a bicone right there. So you have the majority of the bulk of the paper in the center, and then it tapers on each end. And if you were to split that bead right in half, you would see where the cone comes in, because it would be just a little cone on both ends. So that is a bicone. We're going to learn that one. And then there's one where, so a bicone is made from a triangular strip of paper, an isosceles triangle, where 2 sides are equal. If we get to what I call a pill, because it looks like something you would find if you opened an ibuprofen or something like that, for a lack of a better word. See how on this one, the ends are rounded instead of a cone? They're just gently rounded. The way you get that is you're using like a blunt triangle. You're not cutting the paper to a point. You're cutting it off so that you have, it's wider at the bottom, but at any point you can cut it off and you'll see a lot of the paper, and it just gives you rounded edges. Okay, so those are the shapes that I'm gonna show you how to cut the paper, and we'll roll the bead. I'm gonna show you how I seal them so that the layers don't move back and forth, how to give it some shine, and that's what we're gonna be practicing on. Okay, so a lot of the different shapes that you see in here are shapes that I learned how to make after I learned the basics. And I'm telling you, this can really get involved. And if there is interest in any other shapes or techniques, if people reach out to me and inquire about it, then we'll try to do something. The PDF, I am going to give you links to people I follow, people who have made paper beading their business, and people that I know you would learn a lot from in case you just want to go to the races. Okay, so there'll be links in the PDF for that. Hi Diane, and Diane says I've only ever made the bicone. Yeah, so it's so much fun. Hi Dawn. So let's look at what you're gonna need and some of the stuff you can get right around the house. Okay, well, you're gonna have to have a way to cut your paper, and a paper trimmer, being that we are card makers, everybody's got a paper trimmer. You can use a long ruler and a pencil. I highly recommend making it easy on yourself and using your paper trimmer. Okay, so you needed a way to cut the paper. A pair of snips you want in your toolbox. Decorative scissors come in handy. Because some of the shapes, when you've got that really harsh end to the paper, it creates like a lip. And if you can tear the end off or even use a decorative edge, it lays it down really nice and it doesn't look so blunt and obvious that the paper just stopped there. Okay, so things like that. You're going to need something to roll your bead on. So let's say you've got a tool, or let's say you're going to learn around a toothpick or a bamboo skewer, whatever you have that you can learn how to roll the bead on. The toothpicks are double duty though, because that's what's going to help secure our bead while we after we make them and things like that, we can put them in the styrofoam. You are going to need, I usually have like a little paper plate. This is a styrofoam plate, just so that it contains my things and they're not rolling all around the table. You're going to need a type of glue to secure the ends of your paper strips. Now, when I taught, I picked these up at the Family Dollar store. You got 3 of them for 75 cents at the time. It's Elmer's school glue. And, okay, so I got to clean the ends off of this one. But it's not a super fine tip, but it does have, you know, somewhat of a tapered tip to that. You can use, if you've got a fine tip glue bottle like this, you can use that. You can use a glue stick if you've got a glue stick, but you're going to need some kind of a glue, an adhesive there. And because you're working with glue, you're going to get it on your fingertips. So I just bought a pack of sponges. at the dollar store. And this is wet, and I've just got it sitting in a little plastic tray. That way I can wipe the glue off of my fingers. I've got some paper towels to dry my fingers off with. So you're going to want something that you can clean your hands with. And again, there's the toothpicks come into play. You're going to need a piece of styrofoam. Why? Because here's a good example. So after I get done rolling the bead, I place it on a toothpick. Here's a bicone that I did. So once the bead is rolled, I just stick it on the toothpick, and I'm going to stick it into that styrofoam and get as many on here as I want before I start sealing them. So a piece of styrofoam, if you've got a styrofoam cup, turn it upside down and stick them into the bottom of a cup. Piece of styrofoam, packing styrofoam. Again, these are things that if you look, you can find them around the house and you don't have to go out and buy anything. I am using, to make sure that the layers don't keep sliding back and forth, I want to seal them, and this also helps to harden the paper, is some Mod Podge. You can buy these little 2-ounce bottles at the Dollar Tree. You can find them, I usually find them at the Dollar Tree. But just get yourself a little 2-ounce thing of Mod Podge if you don't already have it in your crafting stash. And then if you want to give your beads some shine, the way I started teaching was I bought $1 at the dollar store, again, the clear, fast-drying nail top coat. Now, if you're going to be working with nail polish, even though, of any kind, make sure you're in a ventilated area. When I would have 8 or 10 people sitting around the table, there was a window open or there was a fan going. But it gave it the shine. I had a limited amount of time that I could teach the class in. And so that was what I used to teach. So you can use clear nail polish to give your beads shine, and it also helps harden them. I graduated into using a glaze, and this is called triple thick brush on glaze. This 2-ounce bottle you can find at Michael's, where they sell the little 2-ounce bottles of acrylic paint. This is my favorite. As long as you don't put too much on, it does dry fast. But they do like you to wait 24 hours in between coats because that's it. It needs time to cure. It may be dry to the touch, but if you really want it to cure, you wait. This is also self-leveling. So you don't want to put too much on your bead because you set it down, the gravity will pull the extra down, and then it just kind of hangs out at the bottom of your bead and it's a little wasted. I am teaching you the way I do it. You're going to find that there are so many different ways to glazing your beads. People have different techniques on cutting paper. People have different techniques on what they use. It's all okay. You just need to find a method that works for you. And I can only teach you how I do it and what worked for me. Okay? So if you see somebody on YouTube doing it a little different, doesn't mean it's wrong. You may like it better than what I show you. You just have to find what you like. Hi, Sandy. Sandy says she has a pair of rolled paper beads from years ago. That is awesome. Ornetta, hello. And Loretta is here. Hi, Ann and Brenda. So, in your toolkit, these are the things that you're going to need. So, let me get some things off to the side here, and we'll pull them back in as we need them. One thing I will tell you, oh, here's another thing. Save your Gatorade bottle caps, because you can use these as little wells. Like, I'll squirt some Mod Podge into the well, and because Mod Podge is water solid, you know, you can clean it up with water. The triple thick you can clean up with water. So you can make a couple of these last a really long time. You're also going to need a paintbrush. Stay away from the really cheap paintbrushes. If you can just like pull and the little hairs come out, run away from that paintbrush, because those little hairs are going to get stuck in the varnish or the glaze. So you don't want that. You might have like a sable type old paintbrush. You can tell that this one is really loved. There is varnish caked onto this paintbrush where this end is never going to fall off. But this is my favorite. The bristles are really, really soft. They don't shed. And so find yourself a paintbrush that doesn't shed. Okay. As I was moving things, I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to show them that too. So now I am going to take the camera and I'm going to try to get more of the trimmer in focus so you can see the full length. Now I'm going to be using Stampin' Up! Scraps. That's what I've got, but you can use magazines. You can use calendars. What I love about this craft is that things that would normally get thrown away can be repurposed. And let's put it this way. If you roll the bead and you don't like it, then throw it away. But you can help recycle paper and make beautiful beads out of them. So there's so many good things about this craft that really appealed to me. I am going to show you how to cut. I'm using 1-inch strips. And the reason why I'm using 1-inch strips of paper is just because it's going to be easy for me to show you how to cut it. You can make your beads any width, and however wide they are, then that's how tall they're going to stand, if you need to know that. Especially if you're going to be working with like memory wire, which is a coil. You are only going to be able to make the beads so long because they need to turn on that coil. But I think a 1-inch strip is a really good teaching width, because when we cut this, you're actually going to get 3 strips of paper from that 1-inch piece, okay? So I've just got some different things here. And as we go along, I'm going to explain to you, when you see the pattern paper, you're like, oh, I want my bead to look like this. Well, let's pull this one out to show you. Depending on how you cut your paper, you're going to lose. You're going to lose all that pattern. And because all you're going to see when we do a bicone is you're going to see the very outside edge. Because as you're rolling that triangle on top of each other and keeping the bulk in the middle, all you're going to see is the outside. And what the sweet surprise is you never know where the color is going to land. So it's really, really cool. It's always a surprise. Hi, Julia. Hi, Sandy. So I'm going to take this 1-inch strip and we're going to start with the bicone. The bicone, again, is an isosceles triangle, and to get your even cones on each end. So your two sides need to be the same. So to find the middle, you could like find the 1/2-inch, mark or whatever. It's really easy just to fold one end. Just fold it in half. or even eyeball it, but just give it a crease. And when you open it up, there's your halfway. There's your 1/2 inch. And if you want, go ahead and make a mark with a pencil. So what I'm going to do is I want to cut from the bottom here. It's going to be where I'm going to, how wide my bead is. And I'm going to cut from this corner up to the middle, this corner up to the middle. So I'm going to put my pencil mark in the track up here. I'm going to kick one side of the bottom of my strip down here to where it's in the track also. I'm going to put my blade up to the top because it's easier to start cutting from that end. I'm going to cut. Okay, so now I've taken, come on, get over here. Darn it. I didn't want to have this take hours. So here, yeah. So here I have a triangle. It's a right triangle. It's not, but it's still going to give you a really good bead. So I'm going to move this out of the way because that's a bead. And then I'm going to put my pencil mark back in the track. I'm going to kick my paper over to where this other corner is in the track. Now this gets a little trickier because I got 2 points in the track, but it should be okay. I'm going to start from the wider end down here at the bottom. Okay. So now I've got my triangle, my isosceles. This is the middle strip. I got 2 equal sides. These 2 pieces that we cut off, we're gonna make them a bead. Okay. So I'm gonna start showing you how to roll. And you know what? Let's get our cutting done first. So let's put those triangles to the side. The other shape I wanted to show you was just a straight edge. This is a really good one so that you get to see the whole pattern of your paper. And what do I want to use here? Oh, Julie, it doesn't matter. Just pick something. So here's a 1-inch strip. So we'll do a 1 inch, and then I really don't have to cut the others because you'll know that if you wanted to cut this in half, you're going to get 2 smaller cylinder shape pieces. Let's go to that blunt, that pill shape. Okay, so again, 1-inch strip. We're going to get 3 strips that can be rolled from this. So I'm going to start with 1 inch wide, and I'm going to taper it to like, I don't know, just pick anything up here. We could go 1/4 of an inch. So I've got this part of my paper up here at 1/4. Oh, wait a minute. You got to just remember, am I playing around with the top or the bottom? So I just kicked it over to 1/4. I'm going to come down here. There's one. And then let's say I want this to be, I want to take another 1/4 of an inch off the other side. What you're doing is you just got to make sure that you're cutting. Okay, see how this is blunt down here at the bottom? It doesn't go to a point. You could also just cut a triangle and snip off the ends if you want. That's probably the easier way to do it. Make your isosceles triangle and just cut you're cutting some length off. And length is a factor in how chunky your bead's going to be. But you can just cut a blunt cut off of that also if you want. Or you can make it blunt. And it's this edge right here that can create a lip. So I'm just going to tear it off. That is going to actually blend in with the paper when I go to roll it. Okay, so here we've got some shapes that we can start rolling. And then we can even pull out some different papers and show you how patterns get lost if you do a bicone. Okay. This is really different teaching this online than in person. This is, it's really just seems a little weird to me, but we're going to get through it. If you can be patient with me, then we'll be fine. Okay, so let's look at the tool, and I am going to do this so that when I show you how to roll, you get a really good idea of this. And I'm now standing up. But if you can see, let me find the slot. This is a hinge pin. And you can see that there is a slot right here down the middle. That is going to hold the whitest end of your paper. You always roll with the whitest end of your strip in that pin. Okay? This is a dowel rod. This is one of the tools that my dad surprised me with. I gotta share this story with you. Do you see these dots that are on it? And I don't know if these dots are backwards or not, because I don't know Morse code. But my dad was an amateur radio operator. He was a ham. And you have to know Morse code. Anyway, he sent me this box of tools, and I'm like, oh, Dad, this is so cute. You got a paint pen, and you decorated it. Remember, 80 years old. He was not an artist. I just thought, let him go. I just enjoyed watching and seeing how his mind worked. So I got a box of these, and I was teaching a class, and the lady said to me here in Toledo, she said, hey, tell your dad I said hi. And I was very puzzled. I'm like, how does she know my dad? And I said, you know my dad? She goes, no, I don't know your dad, but he wrote hi in Morse code on the tools. Dad didn't tell me that. When I called Dad to tell him, he just giggled, you know. He was not going to tell me. I guess he was just going to see if anybody would ever figure it out. So just little things my dad did, they bring back such good memories of him. So it's a dowel rod, and he would stain them, and he would do little things like this. But he bought a drill press so that he could put the hole in there and then tap the pins in. And we had to bury them so that they wouldn't, you know, fall out. But this was a hinge pin. And we've got about 1 inch on these tools because I didn't need these pins to be any longer for beads that was going to go into jewelry. And it's sometimes really hard to find the length of a hinge pin that you need, because you do have to bury part of it into the dowel rod to secure it. So you're going to lose length. But 1 inch was fine for us. Oh, thank you, Diane. I know, you guys, if I get a little choked up, this is just really special to me that I get to share some stories of my dad with you. So he passed away on my birthday 3 years ago. So this is really, really special to me. So please just be patient with me. Anyway, so this is a pin that is going to hold the strip of paper. Okay? So when you load your, and this is really weird looking at the top of my phone trying to do this. I think I'm gonna sit down and then just try to hold it up there because it just seemed very awkward. So I'm gonna find that slot. Okay, so if you can see, I've got the paper. Let's see, and I don't want it to be blurry. There you go. I can watch my computer right now and see it's a little behind. But I've got the paper in that slot. Now, the side of the paper that you want to see on the outside, you need that on the inside of the pin. Because when you start rolling, this is the side that you're going to see. And with it being double-sided paper, I think it's a win-win. I wouldn't start over, just finish it out and see what it's going to look like, and then do the next one the way you wanted. Okay, so you want the side that you want to see on the outside. Now, you can start different ways. You have to find what feels comfortable in your hand. I've got my right hand on the handle. I am holding the strip in that slot with my other hand. Okay? Now, I am going to roll my tool away from me, and I'm keeping my hand on this strip so that it doesn't slide out of the slot. And as I am rolling, and sometimes the paper does slip out. You just got to start over again. But, so can you see how the paper is coming up on the side there? And I'm just helping it along. Once you roll it like 2 or 3 times, it should be secure in that pin. Okay? Now here's the thing. You don't want your layers to be loosey-goosey. So, you need to make the paper taut, but you don't want tight. And this is a learning thing. So, I'm just going to keep rolling like this. And now and if you ever have to let go of your strip, make sure you've got your thumb on that paper because it'll spin out on you and then you're starting over. So if you ever let go up here, make sure you're holding it somehow on the pin. And as I'm rolling, I am keeping the width of the strip centered in my pin. So go slow. You don't have to be like the fastest bead roller, in Ohio or anything like that. You just want to keep paying attention to your sides and see that you're keeping the width in the center. Okay, so I'm just going to keep rolling. And I've got it taut but not tight. And you can help push your paper to the middle if you get off track a little bit. Okay, so can you see how as the triangle is getting smaller, that you can really see the two ends having that cone shape? It's kind of hard to tell with the one that's closest to your handle. But if you just keep rolling, and just keep that in the center of your bead. Now, if you need to push your papers over a little bit, again, don't let go of the strip unless you've got this secure, okay? Because then you can kind of like slide your paper a little bit, but never let go because it will spin out on you. And then I'm just gonna keep rolling. Again, I'm just gonna try and make sure that And it might be easier for you if you're rolling and you can, instead of holding it up here at the top, let that tail fall to the bottom, turn your tool, and have this in front of you like this and hold on to it. This is what's easier for me, is if I've got the tail pointing at me and I can see. But can you see how already we've lost the pattern that this strip started out as? All we're seeing is the color on the sides, and you don't know where it's going to land. So when I get to about, an inch from the end, I'm going to hold it. Remember, you don't want it to spin out on you. And I'm going to take some glue. I'm just going to put it on the end there like that. And then I'm just going to keep this bead between my thumb and my index finger. And with the other hand, I'm just going to roll it. And you can see there's some glue, and that's why our hands get a little sticky. But I'm just going to keep rolling that into that glue, taking that excess, because that's going to help seal that end like that. Okay? And you can then just wipe your fingers on your wet sponge or your wet paper towels or a wet nap of some kind. Now, to take the bead off the pin, if you were holding it too taut, you're going to find out right now. This should pull right off, or you may have to rock the tool. But if you cannot get it off, that means you were holding it too tight. And this is where you need to just get a practice and find that feel. And you want your layers to be laying nice and flat, and they just blend in with each other. There's not a lot of loose gaps. You don't want loose gaps in between your layers. So I want to see if this shows on camera. Again, my computer's a little behind. There you go. If you look really close, you can see the different layers, but they're not loose. Okay? So I'm going to take my bead off. And now what you can do, let's say it's a little more pointy on this side than the other side. You can actually push in on the ends. Did you see it move? See how I made it move? There's no glue on the ends. So I can push that around if I want to. Depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. But there is the bicone. If I was to cut this bead in half, it would look like a cone on both sides. Okay? Now, let me just kind of show you another thing that you can do with this bead, this shape right here. This is so exciting, okay? So, stand your bicone up on a flat surface, and from the top, push those layers down. Push them all the way to the table. Now look what you got. You've got a tall cone. You know what I did with this shape? One of the first things that I sold at a craft show. This was my angel body. And I got the tiny little angel metal wings. And I put a bead up at the top for her head. And I made angel earrings. That was the very first piece of jewelry I made at a craft show. And I just started out with that bicone. And I stood it up and I pushed all these layers down. And now I've got another shape that I can use for, whatever it is that you're looking for. And I also made Christmas tree earrings. I used green paper. This was my Christmas tree. I put a little seed bead at the top for the star, put a little couple brown beads at the bottom for the trunk of the tree, and I sold Christmas tree earrings. So between the tree and the angels, those were the first pieces of jewelry I ever made with paper beads, and it was just like that. From then, I just couldn't stop. So now it might be a little hard getting this shape back to its original. And it's okay if I don't. I just wanted to show you because I've already got some other beads rolled that when I can show you that bicone again. So it's kind of back into shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now what I want to do with that bead is I'm going to stick a toothpick in it. Toothpicks are not created equal. The toothpicks that I can get at my Kroger store are terrible. They're so thin that they go right through. And this toothpick might have been one of them. So if your bead slides on your toothpick, put a toothpick on both ends. They're going to meet in the middle, and it's going to secure your bead. And then I just stick them in a piece of styrofoam, and I move on to my next shape. So let's look at the two pieces that we had left over from that. What you're going to find is the narrower it is at the bottom, the rounder the bead. Okay? The narrower at the bottom, the rounder the bead. When you have that wide bottom, that's when you get your bicone. So let's put our piece of paper in our pin. Okay? Here I've got a lot more room, but I need to hold it to get it started. So I'm holding it. I've got my index finger behind it on the pin and my thumb there. And as I roll it with my dominant hand and it catches that piece of paper, now I can just keep rolling. And again, for me, if I let this tail drop to where it's in front of me, it's easier for me to make sure that I'm seeing that I'm staying in the center. Now, being that one of these edges is straight, because we started, it's not a perfect isosceles, but see how the corners are coming in and they're rounding? This is going to start giving us, now we've got an oval. We keep going. Look at it. It's getting rounder. Can you see it? It's amazing. I just love this. So as I roll, I'm getting a rounder bead because that base is shorter. Now it looks like an egg. And here's the great thing, you guys. You can stop at any point. I can rip this off. If I like what I see, and I still have paper to go, you can stop wherever you want to stop. And again, I've got my finger on it because if I let go, this bead's going to spin out. But I'm going to finish this, okay? So I'm just keeping that in the center. Look at all those. I love multicolored beads. They are my favorite. And then I've got my tail. And I'm going to put some glue on my tail. And between my index finger and my thumb, I'm just going to keep rolling that and let that glue attach that tail to the center of the bead. I'm going to clean up any glue that's on my finger. Wipe my fingers off on my sponge that's next to me. And look at that little tiny rounder bead. This is actually oval, but you just got another bead out of that one strip. And I'm going to rock. I got that one a little tight. But look at that little bead. And because it's a right triangle, it gets a little heavy at one end. And these remind me of, we've got some little shells on the shores of Lake Erie that look like this shape. But there's there's another little bead for you. Okay, so out of that bicone, or out of that 1-inch strip, I've got a bicone, and I'm going to get 2 of these. Okay, so I'm not going to roll the other one because it should be pretty close to that one. If I'm off on my cutting, it might be a little longer, but it's just another shape for you to have as a bead, so that you have choices when you're beading the different shapes and everything. Okay, so we're not going to do that one because we know. So let's, while we're doing triangles, let's get this one out that I tapered it at the end. Okay. Oh boy, what side do I want to see? I'm going to keep this on the outside. So I'm putting it in my pin. Okay. And I'm going to start rolling, and I'm holding it in there. See, I'm holding it as it curls around that pin, and it's in the slot. Now I'm going to drop the tail, because this is what works easy for me. And you just play. Now maybe I'm going to stop it somewhere around here. I'm looking for when I like the ends to look round. I'm trying to not create a bicone because I've already done a bicone. But see how the edges are rounder? I can adjust that when I take it off the pin. But they're a little bit rounder. So I think if I go all the way to the end, it might look more bicone-y. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rip this off right here. Again, I'm holding on to it. Now, because this is wider, I'm going to have to hold the end a little bit longer so that I make sure it sticks to the paper. So I will just hold it like this for a few seconds. Make sure that that ridge is laying flat. See how it's blending pretty much into my paper? If I left that straight and blunt, you're going to see a definite lip, and you're going to feel it. Here I can just, oh, now I'm getting it dirty. Had something on my fingers. But it's got a different shape. So you just have to play with the paper. Okay, so I don't really like that one. I'm just going to toss that to the side. But I'm just trying to show you how you can get some different shapes. Here's what's really cool. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to show you. So remember, the shorter the width, the more round a bead. Well, this is 1/4 inch right here. Let's roll this because I can't wait to show you this. Let me get it started. Shorter the width, the rounder the bead. Now this is going to be even rounder than that other one that I showed you because it's got a shorter base. Look at, can you see it how it's round? Look at that. It's this little tiny round bead. This would be great as a spacer bead in between 2 bigger beads. Look at that. Can you see it? Isn't it cute? I just love them. I love these little round beads. And you can stop wherever you want. The longer this is, it's going to go from a round bead to a saucer. So let's just play it out. Let's just keep it in the middle there. Just trying to shift my layers a little bit, and that can be done at the end. This will be a little saucer, but if this was longer paper, you would definitely have a saucer. But our paper is only 12 inches long. But But you know, you could cut your designer series paper on the diagonal and get it a little bit longer length if you wanted to. Okay, I'm going to hold it. This is where a fine tip really does come in handy, though. That way you keep the glue on the paper and there's not so much on your hands. But can you see how it's got, how can I hold this so that you can see? Can you see it's more of a saucer? It's actually getting wider in the middle to create that saucer. We lost the round. Had that strip been any longer, you really would have seen a saucer. Okay, so again, with your extra pieces, you're getting more shapes for your beads. Okay, so I'm just gonna rock that off. I'm gonna grab myself a toothpick, and don't throw your toothpicks away after one use. Sometimes if you've got a little Mod Podge when I show you how to seal, or a little bit of nail polish or glaze, whatever you're using, now you don't want to stick them to the toothpick, but sometimes you'll get a little bit on the toothpick and it just creates like a natural stopper. So don't throw your toothpicks away until you absolutely, they don't work for you. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to put that over in my styrofoam. And I don't need to roll that one. We've already done it. So that comes down to our straight tube. This is going to be a tubular bead. Again, I can stop this at any point that I like the bulk of it. Okay. So, and with this, we're always going to see the whole pattern. That's what's also nice about this shape. Now, as we go along, I'm going to give you some tips. This is a really good shape if you've got paper you don't like. I've got designer series paper that there's a side to that paper I will never use in a card. It's not my favorite. So why not use it up instead of it just sitting? I can use it as my core, and I'm going to show you how you can change just the end so that, you know, you're not wasting all the prettiness. Use your junk paper for this bead. We're only going to decorate the very end of it. Okay. So this here, I just want to, again, make sure that I am keeping my ends straight. Okay, just keeping the ends straight. Now, as I'm going along, yes, my handle is helping keep the one end where it needs to be. But at any point, I can stop. Let's say I want a really skinny tube. I could tear off the rest of the paper right here and have a really skinny tube. And again, if this was only a 1/2 inch, it's just a shorter bead. But I'm going to keep going. Because I want you to see that the length of your paper determines the thickness or how chunky it is. See how it's getting chunkier the farther that I go? Again, you can stop at any time. Now, what I should have done before I even started was knowing that I'm going to tear this paper because I don't want this harsh lip at the end. I could have tore it. But if you've got a decorative pair of scissors, believe it or not, just that edge is going to help it lay flatter. Okay. I'm just going to keep going. And it'll blend in. Now I'm going to have to hold this for a few minutes. I want to smooth and flatten out that lip. I want it to just blend in with the paper underneath it. Yes, I can see it. And part of what's neat about paper beads is the, I don't know if organic is the word that I want to use, but it kind of does apply. The paper has an organic feel, and I like to feel the ridges. I like to be able to feel some texture. So those little waves that, I need to clean off my fingertips. That little wave that was created with those decorative scissors, if I can see it, I'm okay with it. But what I want to make sure is it's laying nice and flat. It doesn't have that harsh lip edge that I wouldn't be able to get rid of. So now I can rock it off. And what I like to do is I like to sit up my tube beads on my surface. I like to push down on both ends because that helps the papers get in line, so to speak. It shifts them on the inside and helps it lay flat. Now, if you've got a lip that's a little rough, let's say it doesn't go nice and flush, okay, well, you can either, if it's really distinct, you can snip it off with your scissors. But if you have a nail file or an emery board, you can smooth out a lip. Okay, so you can use something like an emery board, something you have around the house, and that will help file down any type of a little lip if your cutting was a little off. So there's the tube bead. Now I've got one rolled because I want to show you something different that you can do with this. Okay, this is so exciting. Where is my... Okay. So I have here a piece of copy paper. That's going to be my junk paper. That's a core that's going to get hidden. Nobody's going to see it. Why waste my pretty paper? Let's make our paper go longer. And here I have a not so favorite designer series paper. And what I did here is I took a Rand McNally map. Okay, if you find these at a garage sale or maybe you have one, pick them up. Because I can make a destination bead out of this. Here is Columbus, Ohio. I didn't cut my Toledo one long enough, so I'm going to have to do something with that. So I cut out Columbus. It's 1 inch because that's how wide my strip is. And it's about 1.5 inches long, so that when it rolls around the tube, it goes all the way around. And you want to have your word that you want to see at the end. If you have it up here and this is too long, you might find that you get around to it and now you're covering up your word. So try to keep the word that you want at the bottom, because it'll always end up the last thing that you see when you roll your bead. Okay? So watch this. This is so cool. I love making destination beads. And think about like when you go to the rest stops, let's say you're traveling and you've got a rest area, you know, all those pamphlets that you can pick up for sightseeing. Pick up some of those if you're going to go see those places. Make beads out of that paper. And you might be the only one that knows the story behind the paper that was used in the bead. But it's a really nice souvenir for you to have that you can make yourself something. And let's say that you've got a map and you've got your destination on there. You know, maybe you want a bead that's got your hometown on it. So here I'm coming to this extra piece that I had that I glued to the end. And now I am rolling my destination around that inside. I'm going to hold on to it and flip it over. This paper's really thin, so this glue is going to take really fast. And I'm going to continue rolling that. Now here I'm going to wipe the glue off. I'm going to lay down that seam. I want it nice and flush. But look at, it says Columbus. So there is a destination bead. This is something that you can use with old maps. The first commissioned bracelet I ever did, it was a memory wire bracelet. It was like 5 rings. It was to look like you stacked your bracelets. And the lady had me, she wanted Paris, the town that the recipient was from, and one other bead. And I did 3 destination beads in her bracelet. So there is an idea that you can do with this type of bead. And again, remember, you can make it as skinny or as chunky as you want. Here I'm just pushing it down. I'm getting all those layers on the inside to get where they need to be. And there's my Columbus bead. Let me show you, and again, if you want to use copy paper, you can use copy paper. You're going to have a solid white core because this is all white. This has a white core too, but like if you were using a dark paper like black, you might see that this core is a little darker. But you can always put your ends in some ink if you want your ends to be a certain color. Ink your ends to give them whatever you need. But let me show you this other bead that I did ahead of time. Okay, so this one, I had rolled some of the designer series paper, but I went through a birding magazine and I found the word, oh, it's upside down. I found the word bird. So I had to make a birding bead. Now, you could find the name of, let's say you wanted to say somebody's name. You know, you can print it out and have their name on the bead. This could be, you could take an old book and you found the word love. Tear out the word love and just decoupage it right to the outside of your bead. You don't even have to try and cut it out and glue it to the end of that strip. Just cut it out and Mod Podge it right to your bead, and now you've got a word bead. Okay? Have I lost anybody? This can really get involved, you guys. There are so many possibilities, but those cutting shapes that I just showed you will yield you a lot of different shapes. Okay? And so some of these I did last night because I want to show you how to glaze them. So the ones that I already did, I want out of the way. I'm going to come back to, I'm going to take out the beads that we did today. And what I want to show you is what I use to keep these layers from being able to move like this. First, I'm going to make sure it's a shape that I'm happy with. I kind of got that bicone all out of shape because I was showing you how you could make a Christmas tree or an angel's body out of it. So I'm going to take some of my Mod Podge, not a whole lot. You don't need a lot. And going to put it in my little Gatorade recycled cap. I'm going to bring in a paintbrush. And I am going to brush my Mod Podge on. Now, here's something that you will find if you watch different people making paper beads. Some people say that the Mod Podge does not bring out the colors that for them. This is a step that they skip because they figure that when they put their glaze on, that's going to seal everything. I 100% believe that by using Mod Podge, it helps harden the bead when it dries, and it intensifies the color. I swear to it, but some people don't agree with me. Now, so I put some Mod Podge on my ends. Now, when it comes to the end that has the toothpick in it, you just want to be careful. You want to get Mod Podge on those layers. But what you want to be careful of is that you're not gluing your bead to your toothpick. So be very careful. And what you can do is you can run your thumb around the base. You can even push up on your bead a little bit to know that it wasn't stuck there. And then I am going to put this back in the styrofoam to dry. Now, when it comes to the little beads, you do, whoops. Number one, make sure it's on the toothpick. Maybe that end isn't a good end. I'm going to put it down here. That's more snug right there. So just paint. This is like a very calming step. At night, I'll do my sealing and my glazing. It's just me and my OttLite and a brush and my thoughts. So this is very calming. Now, you will find that there's people who dip their beads, which means that they've strung all their beads on some fishing line, and they've got spacers in between, and they're going to let them hang and drip dry. But they're using things like wood petrifier and things that you have to have safety glasses and gloves. If you were mass producing your beads for a purpose, then that's probably the way to go, because you can glaze a lot in one step. But if you're not in a hurry and this is just a craft that helps calm you down and slow you down, then hand brushing on your Mod Podge and your glaze, to me, is the way to go. So that is how you, I don't think I need to glaze all of them because you got the gist of it. Maybe we'll do one more. You get the gist of doing it. Now, here's something I do want to tell you. Don't use excessive amounts of Mod Podge. You just need a layer that's going to coat your paper. But the more Mod Podge that you put on, it's going to take longer to dry. It's also going to look goopy. If you've got a lot on, let's say, let me show you. Let's say I've got all this. Look at all that. Well, we don't need all that. So what I can do is I can put my brush underneath my bead, and I can just spin. And it's going to help take off that excess, and then just brush that off. You don't want it goopy because this is going to wet the paper. And you want it to dry fast. Okay? So, that is how I seal the layers. Oh, that's how I seal the layers so that the paper doesn't shift, okay? So now I want to make them nice and glossy, right? So I got another well. And I'm going to bring in the Deco Art Triple Thick. If you don't want to go out this and you've got a bottle of clear nail polish that dries real fast, open that baby up. Use the brush that's on it. But here I need a different paintbrush. And I am going to get one of these that I did yesterday. So this has already got a coat of Mod Podge on it. I'm going to pick up that glaze, and you're going to see the shine. Thin layers. Remember, this is a self-leveling glaze. If I get too much glaze on this and I stand it up, the gravity is going to pull all that excess glaze to the bottom, and it's all going to collect right there. So you don't want that. So, The thinner the coat, the better. You want to get it all the way down to the ends. And you want it all the way around. I usually do 3 coats of this because I want it to start filling in the ridges somewhat. And that's what this glaze is good for too, is the more layers that you use, it starts to fill in the ridges, and you can get a really smooth bead that almost looks like a marble. Okay. But you want to go thin layers. And again, if you had a whole bunch on your brush, you could just spin your bead on the bristle end of your brush, and it'll collect the extra glaze on it, and then you can just wipe it off. But there you can see the shine. Does that pick up on the laptop? So there you can, come on computer, catch up with me. I'm hoping that you can see some shine there. And it'll get glossier the more layers that you use. But now I'm going to stick this in my little, these discs you can get 2 for $1 at the Dollar Tree. Well, $1.25. But you can get these styrofoam discs. If you've got anything that came packaged in a box and it's got, you know, some styrofoam, I like the squishy styrofoam. That's my favorite. I like the squishy styrofoam instead of this hard styrofoam. I am going to kind of go there. And what you can do, so my sister ended up teaching my dad how to roll beads, and she would cut the paper before she left for work, and she would come home and my dad's already got the beads rolled. He's already started glazing them and stuff. But what he did was he would take like a Sharpie, and he would draw a line on his styrofoam. And he would even write whether it's like an MP for Mod Podge and a G for glaze. And so he knew what step he did, and he would just move. He'd have more than just one, but he would move them to where they needed to be, so he would remember what step he already did instead of getting them on there and you're like, oh, you know, where was I when I did this? Here's one of those tube beads that I didn't use the whole length of the paper, so you can see how chunky one is compared to the other. And those little, okay, so remember when we rolled the 2 sides to our triangle? Well, those 2 sides I pushed down, like how I showed you to make a cone. So here I got little mini cones. So this is this shape. I just pushed all the layers down to the bottom. Whoops, I don't think I'm in camera. I just pushed all those layers down to the bottom, and I got a little tree or cone shape. So you could manipulate the layers and manipulate the shapes, giving you a lot more choices when you're making different beads for your projects. Okay, I hope I did a good enough job on teaching you the basics of paper beads. We have gone way over. We're at an hour and a half. I knew it was going to be hard for me to keep this at an hour because there's more to this than meets the eye. But I hope that if you're interested, so what I'm going to do is I need to put a few more links in the PDF. And I'm also going to link this Facebook Live so that you can pull it up on your computer. It brings you back to this live and you can just follow along. I also am today going to post a Google form. And if you're interested in purchasing any of the tools that I have that my dad made, I have a limited quantity. So right now, I'm going to put it a two tool per person limit. If there's extras left over, then I'll let you know in case you want to buy a couple extras for your grandchildren or your girlfriends so that you can teach them how to do it. But I really want to make sure I have enough to go around. They're $5 a piece, and I'm going to be shipping them in a small padded envelope. And the last time I did that, it was like $4 something, depending on where it's going. So $5 shipping and handling, $5 per tool. If you fill that Google form out and send it back to me, then I'll fill the orders. Well, first I'll invoice you, and then as the invoices get paid, I will fill the orders and get them out in the mail. Okay? So look for the Google form this afternoon. Look for the PDF. The PDF the only place I can put it is we have a community group, quilt card group. It's called Quilt Cards and More. And I am able to upload files within that group. And that's where you're going to find the PDF. Okay? So this afternoon, I'll get those two things taken care of. I will read through your comments and try to answer as many questions as I can. I am leaving town tomorrow. I've got a house and pet sitting job out of town. And I should be back by next Thursday if those plans change. Right now, that Facebook Live is going to be kind of iffy. I should be able to do it. But you never know with flights and things like that. I might get delayed a day. So also, the Barn Quilt Facebook Live on the 30th is going to be pre-recorded. But it's going to go live at 8:30 like I normally do at night. I'm excited because I can be on there watching with you at 8:30, and I think I can like chat with you and stuff while we watch it together. So those are some things that are going on. I'm really sorry that I held us over an extra half hour. I thought I could do the basics in an hour, but as you can see, it took a little bit longer. Have a very blessed day, and I look forward to helping you in any way I can with this. If this looks like something you want to do, this is great. Kids learn fast. You can teach your grandchildren this. And if you got any girls who like to make the friendship bracelets, well, they could work in some beads on their friendship bracelets. So thank you for sticking it out with me. I see that we lost quite a few. I don't know how long ago, but it happens. I just wanted to be thorough and show you what my world was like before Stampin' Up! And quilt cards. Okay, everybody, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll be checking in with you later. And have a really good rest of your day. And I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas.